Hello Internet, it's Daniel with Driving and Dragons, and I'm back with another little bit on character creation. This time I'm going to talk about my preferred method for creating characters and why I like it. See you on the other side. So, rolling characters. We do it in every single game. Doesn't matter what kind of tabletop role-playing game you're talking about. You have to create your character one way or another. Some are incredibly elaborate, such as the original Traveler, where you could quite literally die as a character during character creation, rolling up your backstory and that sort of thing, all the way up to the very, very simple, such as the in Cyberpunk Red, you can literally just pick from a set of stats. They call it the Street Rat method, and it's like, oh, well, this is my role, and I've got 4 or 5 different sets of stats. I can either roll one, or I can just pick one of these sets of stats, and that's my character stats. And then there's every method in between. The two most common by far that I've seen, and this is going to focus on some of the technical aspects of rolling your character, but the two most common aspects I've seen are either rolling statistics or a point buy method of one kind or another. I am not a fan of point buy systems. I don't like you have a pool of points that you can space out between all your different stats and abilities, and that's how you build a character. I'm not a huge fan of the lack of randomization in those systems. And the reason's because that's a very good game balance mechanic. It helps keeps everybody on a somewhat even playing field. You really have to be a min-maxer in order to be exceptionally good at enough things for it to matter, because you're going to be exceptionally bad at a bunch of other things in order to make that whole situation work. But the problem with the point buy system for me is that when you have point buy systems, you either have savants that are exceptional in a couple of areas and garbage in others, or you have people who are more or less across the board average or slightly above average in a few different ways. And while yes, they are a cut above the general population of the world, they are still pretty well balanced against everything else they do. To me, we play tabletop role-playing games to have exceptional characters and unique characters and exceptional challenges. And that means the opportunity for things to either go exceedingly well or exceedingly rare. So I typically prefer rolling statistics, whether it's the good old-fashioned Dungeons & Dragons 3d6 or 4d6 drop the lowest, or whether it's rolling a d6 and adding a certain amount for and adding a certain amount, or any of the other various ways you roll statistics. I mean, Call of Cthulhu, rolling a d100, or I believe Call of Cthulhu is like roll 3d6 and multiply times 5. So there's several different ways to roll statistics, and I always prefer rolling. Part of the reason that I prefer the most randomized way to get your statistics possible is that's what makes those unique and memorable characters. In my opinion, the greatest literary D&D character above all others, pure and simple, is Raistlin Mazhere from the Dragonlance series. And I don't know if this is 100% true or not, but from what I understand, he had a 3 constitution in his original incarnation. They literally rolled up these characters and played them in a D&D setting before they started writing the books and making the modules. And the character who played Raistlin rolls this unbelievably high intelligence, but also rolls a trash charisma, like the lowest possible constitution score. And then he works that into how he plays the character and creates one of the most enduring and deep characters, or at least the template for one of the most enduring and deep characters in all of D&D literature as a result. That would not have happened with a point buy system. it's how we get guys like Grog Will Smash the Third, who was a character of a good friend of mine at my table. Grog Will Smash the Third was a beyond exceptional character. He started life as a half-orc barbarian in 3.5 edition D&D, but he rolled 3 18s, and he chose to put 1 in Constitution, 1 in Strength, so he had a 20 Strength and an 18 Constitution. He put the other one into Intelligence. So he has a half-orc that's walking around with basically a genius level IQ, and it just made for this incredibly entertaining character that came with great in jokes and table jokes, like the Grog Will and Smash law firm commercial, where he stood up and said that, if you've had an injury, call Grog. Books in background are just for show, for commercial. When Grog show in court, he smash opposition with facts. I mean, just stupid off-the-wall stuff like that only comes from having that crazy, unique character. You would have never had that character on a point buy. And part of the reason you would have never had him on a point buy is because if somebody intentionally does something like that, he's not going to be the unstoppable killing machine he is with an 18 charisma and a 20 or an 18 constitution and a 20 strength. Because he's going to have to point by to get his high intelligence. So he's going to have to be like the weakest or the most sickly or no charisma or something of that matter. He's going to have to be a half-orc that's just really deficient in one area to get that intelligence. Or, because it's intentional, it's just that a lot of the stories and the fun come from the unexpected. They come from the challenge of having to adapt to something you weren't originally thinking. I was originally thinking massive half-orc barbarian, and what they ended up getting was massive half-orc barbarian who happens to be incredibly intelligent, and that makes for some things that are fun. So this is one of those things that I look at when you roll characters. That is where you get that opportunity to be a truly unique character that nobody expects, and it can happen on both ways. You can have that truly exceptional character who is just, every statistic is off the charts because we all sat there and watched you roll, and somehow on a 3d6 roll system you ended up with the lowest stat being a 12, and you're basically a walking demigod. Or you have the exact opposite, where you got that one guy who wants to roll a character and somehow he can't even manage to get a 10. He's below average on everything. He plays the character anyway, and this kind of bumbling everyman rube that's part of this character, this party of great adventurers, turns out to be something spectacular. So when it comes to your character creation, these are the couple of things I point out. Like I said, I'm not big on point buy. I prefer rolling, but that's going to be for your table to determine and for your GM to determine what's best. But one of the big things that I like to look at here is don't treat this as a video game. Okay? Look at your bad rolls as opportunities to make a unique character. Look at your good rolls as an opportunity to make unique characters. Don't get mad because Johnny over there somehow has 3 18s and all your stuff is around 14 and 12 and whatnot. Look at that as something that adds color, adds life, and adds flavor to your gaming experience, either as a player or as a game master. So that's what I'm looking at here. Look into those statistics when you roll your characters. Help it influence your backstory and influence your life path and the way you put everything together. But just remember, your statistics can be so much more than the pluses and minuses that get added to your die roll. See you next time.